Testing everyone in Canada for COVID-19 would be an ambitious and expensive goal in this crisis, something that would likely be difficult, if not outright impossible, to achieve. Right now, no government is talking about doing that. But Saskatchewan is launching the most aggressive plan yet. Starting next week, Monday, Saskatchewan will offer a test to anyone who works outside the home or is returning to their workplace. All they have to do is ask. They don't even have to have symptoms. It is unclear, though, whether people will be rushing out to get a test.
Personally, I don't necessarily feel I need to if I'm feeling healthy.
I have a family that I go home to, so that would definitely be something I would want to do if I felt like I needed to.
Saskatchewan is the first province in the country to offer such expansive, widespread testing. The province is also one of the leaders in loosening restrictions and allowing more businesses and services to reopen. Now, Ontario, one of the harder hit provinces, is continuing to struggle with tests. Mike Crawley covers Ontario legislative affairs for CBC News, and he is at Queen's Park, the legislature, for us this morning. Mike's been doing a lot of reporting on testing. So what is happening in Ontario now?
Well, Heather, Ontario is supposed to hit a target of 16,000 tests per day, and for the last 3 days running, it has fallen woefully short of that, basically averaging about half of the benchmark. The provincial officials are chalking that up to the effect of the long weekend, saying that fewer people were showing up to get tested. But the fact is that all throughout May, Ontario's actually only hit its 16,000 tests a day target, basically about half of the days this month. So Premier Doug Ford, he's making some bold promises about what Ontario is going to do with testing. Take a listen.
We're going to ramp up this testing like this province has never seen. Another 3-4 weeks, we're going to do a lot of testing. I can stand here and promise you that. I'm going to be all over this testing.
What does Doug Ford mean by a lot of testing? Well, no details from him or his officials in terms of actual numbers of where Ontario is going to get with testing in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Heather?
So, Mike, what we had seen in Ontario was long-term care facilities. That was where the testing was based. Now it's beginning to expand beyond that and checking people who feel symptoms. What are experts saying, though, that Ontario has to do to make the tests even more widespread?
Well, that thing of allowing anybody who has symptoms to get tested, that's literally only been in the past week, and it was a cause of a lot of frustration for people who felt they had potentially cases of COVID-19. Doctors thought they might have had it, and yet they weren't able to get the test because the tests were being rationed so strictly here in Ontario. So I spoke to a number of epidemiologists, though, that say that this pandemic is largely about, or a lot about, people who don't have symptoms coming down with the illness and actually potentially spreading it. And that's what they're thinking Ontario needs to be looking at in the coming weeks and months, especially as the economy reopens, all of those people who are out there working potentially getting exposed. Here's what one epidemiologist I spoke to from the University of Ottawa had to say about what he calls surveillance testing.
Means not testing just the symptomatic and the people we know are likely infected, but going after the cases where we think they exist but aren't aware of them yet. So hunting the disease down.
So hunting it down, that means what other experts told me would be going to grocery store workers who are out there having a lot of public interactions, taxi drivers, bus drivers, people who are going back to work and have the potential to be exposed to the virus, just like what's happening there in Saskatchewan. It's quite a contrast from what's going on in Ontario. As you mentioned, in Saskatchewan, people who are working at all out in the public can get a test starting on Monday. That's not the case here in Ontario.